Hello, this is a tutorial. I'd like to talk quickly about Revit rendering. Before we start, here's the learning curve related to rendering, which is a really big topic. I would recommend you watch some basic lectures such as Revit modeling, and here I have a good collection of basic tutorials. The first one is about general concept related to rendering, like lighting, material, how to set up camera. So watch this one first. Also, we have a few basic ones like how to set up the light, how to set up the camera, and how to edit the material. So make sure you go through this basic tutorial first. And my tutorial today is mainly focused on the basic workflow of Revit. I will talk quickly about how to set up lighting, how to apply the material, and how to set up the rendering. I will not cover how to set up camera because this is already being covered. So make sure you reference back to these old tutorials. Alright, so let's first open an example file in Revit. I will start first with the lighting. In Revit, before you start adding the light, it's always a good idea you go to Insert, then you go to Load Family. And this is a place you can load new family tab related to lighting. Really depends on your project. If this is really focused on the interior, you'll probably want to go to architectural, interior. Then you have different type of lights like ceiling light, recessed lights. For the sake of demo, I will just loading a single one, which is rectangular LED light. Right? Actually, I'm loading this one, linear box. This is the light. And I will click open. Right? So once you're loading this light into the current project, then you can go to building system, and then you are able to add a light fixture directly into the building system. Keep in mind when you load a family, you get many options, different dimensions, different type. And this light only works attached to the ceiling, so make sure you do have a ceiling in your view. If you don't know how to create a ceiling, let me cancel this first. You have to go to architecture, then you can create a ceiling right here. Okay, so I think I covered this in another tutorial. You don't have to do it right now, but this is how you can sketch the shape of the ceiling. Then click OK, it will generate a flat ceiling. Okay, the height is probably not right, but anyway, you got a point. This is how to add the ceiling. You can also do is, if you're more familiar with View, you can add in the reverse ceiling plan. So this is a nice way you can have a little bit better control on the location of the light, just adding a reversed ceiling plan. But anyway, I'm going to just go ahead use the rough estimate to create several LED light. So here I will just put it right there, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3 lights. I also added 2 other lights earlier, so you can see this is one, here's another one. Okay, all right, so once you're adding the light, then we are ready to do the render. So here in the render settings, in the dialog, you can set up the setting. I would go with the draft first. It's pretty easy. Faster you can do the render. For the scheme, you probably want to do the artificial only. This will actually control the exposure of your rendering. So if you do an outdoor sun only, this will be pretty bright. So depends on the camera view. In this case, I just do artificial lights only. If you do the outdoor, just show you really quick, you can control the sun settings, like the angle of the sun. You can even create animation out of that. So I'm not gonna worry about the sunlight for now. And the background, usually you want to use a sky, but in the future, if you do want to compose this rendering in Photoshop, maybe you want to have a transparent background. In this case, you want to save the file later as PNG or TIF. This will have the transparency. Then you can do layers in Photoshop. Right. So for now, I will just using no clouds, and then I will do the render. It should be pretty fast since I don't have many complicated geometries in this view. So you can see the progress. Oh, actually, I'm choosing the sun only, right? So in this case, I should actually choose artificial only. Otherwise, you will see this thing is overexposed. So I will render this again with artificial only. Okay, so you can see the lights definitely casted from the ceiling to the ground. Right, that's pretty straightforward. Then you have the option to save to the project. If you do that, this view or this bitmap will be saved under the rendering folder, and here's the renders I just saved. You can also choose export. Then you have the option to choose TIFF or PNG if they have the transparent background. It doesn't matter if it's solid background, you can choose JPEG. All right, I think that's basic about rendering and the lighting. The next one, I want to talk quickly about the material. In Revit, if you go to manage, this is a place you can see the current material in the project. You can also load this new material library. If you don't have the one you like, I think this is existing library. I think I already actually downloaded this earlier. Yeah, right here. So you can see this is a kind of like a huge list of assets. So you can always load additional materials into your current project. So right now I have, if I search brick, I have 2 bricks already. But for some reason, if I want to have more bricks, I can definitely add them in. But usually I don't want to do too many new materials in your current thing. This is gonna definitely slow down or make your project really big, right? But this is a place you can search new material, and then like birch wood, then you can double click. You basically loaded that into your current project. Okay, so this is how you add a new material. For whatever material added, if you go to the appearance, you can see here is a JPEG, PNG or JPEG is control the color. You also have other things, for example, like relief pattern, which is control the bump mapping of the image. In case of the break, you can see the relief is actually a gray color image. Right? So refer to my general lecture about what's the meaning of different channels you can apply different materials in. All right, so for example, this is the material I really like. So then I will make sure this is available in the project. Then I'm going to apply this material to my rendering. So first I will go to modify. You will see this tiny button called paint, right? So if you click paint, you can pick up the material. Since I know I have several bricks available, I can just type brick. Probably don't want to do the uppercase. Right, so you can see this is the new material I just loaded. Make sure this is active material have. Then you can just click the surface you want to apply. For instance, I want to apply to this wall. Then I can just one click. You'll see this wall became the brick wall. I can apply to the ceiling just for the sake of demo. Okay, so that's how you apply the materials to the geometry. So if you have the wall or the ceiling, or if you just model this in place, right, the generic model, you can apply these materials easily. Once you apply the material, then you do a new render, it should show up. Okay. So that's basic settings in Revit, how to load the lighting, how to set up rendering, and how to set up the material. Really straightforward. I do want to show you really quick another feature. I'm not sure if the Revit you have has a V-Ray. Probably I will do another new tutorial talk about the V-Ray rendering engine, which is a really powerful engine on top of Revit. For instance, if you do render production, you can see it's rendered pretty fast compared to the default Revit rendering engine. It also gives you tons of control on the resolution, on the lighting. The lighting is not necessarily follow the same rules as Revit. You have a little bit more freedom. A nice thing about the V-Ray is it has a really nice asset. So here, I think if the first time you open, the asset might look like this. Then you can expand the window. So it's very similar like Autodesk library. You have materials from the materials library. Once you load this material into your editing mode, then you can see this very similar idea. You have the bitmap applied to the color channel. You have the relief, a gray color image applied to the bump channel, right? So that's how the Revit asset will allow you to have more freedom to manipulate the scene. So here I can always add to the scene, then I can start to manipulate. Okay, and here is actually the file. In the future, you can, if you have Photoshop or download some new material, you can link that image directly here. So it's very similar like the rules in Revit material. Now I will show you really quick. If you have, let me not worry about the Revit, the V-Ray. If I have managed the material in Revit, that's kind of the same rule. And here, if you go to appearance, right, you'll see this is the image, right? And this image is actually a JPEG or bitmap associated with it. So in the future, if you do want to create your own version, you can do it by yourself. But I think, in general, the V-Ray or Mental Ray or Arnold or other professional rendering engine give you more flexibilities about this image control. Revit is not necessarily the best program in terms of control the look of your render. That's the reason you see people all the time transfer Revit model to 3ds Max or Maya or Blender or V-Ray, or other rendering engines like Twinmotion, Lumion to do the rendering. It just gives you more control. Okay, but keep in mind this is a place you can easily manipulate the look of the geometry. It's a little bit different from other programs, I have to say, but the rule is similar. We didn't cover about the UV mapping and the scale. In Rhino, that's the very crucial knowledge you have to know, how to control the UV mapping. In Revit, generally this is controlled by default. You only control the scale. So if you want to make the brick bigger or smaller, you directly control the width and height directly here. So it's not really done through the UV mapping. So keep that in mind, the difference of Revit from other program. Okay, I think that's pretty much about the material library. I would recommend you just go ahead, play with these different settings, transparency, reflectivity. They are very intuitive. You just tweak these numbers, then you can do a rendering, you'll see the change immediately. Right? If you're interested about some preset, like a glass, for example, you can definitely see the transparency is already there. Okay, so you have different type of material. Okay. All right, I think that's it about the basic tutorial on Revit material and lighting and the camera rendering. I might do another one just for V-Ray. definitely not this one. So I will keep you posted on the new one related to Revit video rendering. All right.